I
Well,
agree.
listen, if you start the movement,
Mm.
I'm behind you. I'm 100% behind you.
Yeah, it's
As
something
I
I'm
said,
definitely going to pursue.
yeah.
I mean, it's again, I mean, I never thought for a minute that I would be doing that. If you'd have asked me 4 years ago, I would have told you where to go.
But life
Yeah,
has a funny ways of playing things, isn't it? You're
yeah, no,
walking
it is
into the
very
same
strange.
prison in a completely different
Situation.
circumstances, situation
Yeah,
with different shoes, and
totally. Yeah, no,
yeah,
it was very odd. But I mean, but I'm glad it's happening because again, if even one person benefits from it,
yeah,
it could save a life. I mean, like some people I know
absolutely.
in there are sat in there thinking they're never going to get out or whatever, like I was at one point. Um, you know, if they can see someone change their life around, not just change their life around, but do stop doing well for themselves,
Yeah,
having been through such traumatic circumstances,
yeah.
then it can motivate you, it's anyone to do the same, really.
And the other thing is, it never helps only just one life. In what
Yeah,
you're saying that even if it helps one person, because
yeah,
this one person has got the friends, has got the family. So by
yes,
default,
exactly.
you helping and impacting number of lives
I
by one
totally
person,
agree.
like a ripple
Yeah.
effect.
100% agree with you. I
Yeah.
mean, it's exactly that. When you've got the right mental approach or mindset to deal with that, well, it's not just you you're helping
Yeah.
everybody around you.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
you know, that's the thing. A lot of people don't realize when you say invest in yourself, you're not just investing in yourself, you're investing in everything
Yeah.
around you and everybody in your life as well, because
Exactly.
you're improving their life as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about this because I'm looking at the 4 blocks that you mentioned, and first of
Yeah.
all, I love how simple you made it. I got 2 beliefs. Let me start it this way. I got two
Oh,
beliefs. Extraordinary things are available to accomplish and achieve for ordinary people. But there's
yes.
only a small group. The second one is there is only a small group of ordinary people who is willing to do whatever it takes
Mm,
to accomplish those things.
mm.
And we
Okay.
all are stopped by something. And you, as I said, you brilliantly put it like those are the 4 categories. And
Yeah.
let's see which one is stopping you. If we fix this, bum,
Or
you
all of them
can,
could be.
or it could be all of them, a combination
Mm,
of
yeah.
all of them.
Yeah.
In your experience, which one is the strongest, the biggest, the most difficult to
It's a good
avoid?
question because you know, it depends on the individual circumstances for one. But the one thing I would say, I mean, just so they're clear, is limiting beliefs, assumptions, interpretations, and fear.
Yeah.
Fear is probably the one which stops the majority of people, I'd say.
Mhm.
But again, limiting beliefs is something that we all have,
Mhm.
whether we realize it or not. Um, and they're probably the things that stop us doing the most normal things, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Fear is the one thing. So if it's something quite, I don't know, different that we wouldn't say, for instance, going for a new job,
Mhm.
that's potentially where fear would come in. But limiting beliefs can stop us doing anything in our lives. It could be the smallest of things. It doesn't necessarily have to be something big. And it's the same really for an assumption and interpretation, because interpretation is basically a story we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
An assumption is a belief that something that we've done in the past will happen again, and a limiting belief is just something that we've gradually believed to be true about a situation, which we then decide is a fact, which then stops us seeing other perspectives that are available to us.
Mhm.
And that's probably the biggest one, I would say. If I had to choose, fear would be the obvious one.
Yeah.
But when you look at it from a broader perspective, I would say probably the limiting belief is one. And that fits in exactly what I said. Look at it from a broader perspective, because
Yep.
looking at things, we all do it. It's human nature to do it. But when we allow ourselves to only see things from a certain perspective, it stops us seeing the bigger picture. And that then stops us seeing other opportunities and possibilities
Yeah.
that may be available to us, because we're deciding that we're only seeing things from one perspective only. And we might, not challenge that then. We because it's something our friends believe, it's something
Mhm.
that we saw on the news, or it might be something our parents told us or whatever. And we develop those beliefs as we go through life, and they just become fixed beliefs.
Yep.
So anything that happens that's anything in line with those beliefs, we just automatically fall back onto that limiting belief as if it was a fact. And that then prevents us from, seeing a different view or a different perspective, which may open up different avenues of thought or doors or, possibilities for us. And again, they can all work together. It's not one at a time. They can all be happening at any given time, all of them, without us realizing it. Because when you're living in your subconscious mind, which 90% of all our lives, we all do, it's human nature again, these 4 blocks are thriving at any given time. We don't realize they're happening, but they're happening without knowledge, without us consciously being aware of it.
I read somewhere that 95% decisions are made by subconscious mind.
Exactly.
Which is like a pre-recorded messages that creates the reaction, and we do this without the thinking. But the limiting beliefs, from what you're saying, and my understanding is very often come from outside. So we sort of absorbing information, taking it as a fact, taking it as a truth.
Exactly.
Not our own. Where fear, for example, is given. We all scared. We're not brave by default, but that's something that we've got inside. Going back to negative beliefs. My problem always when I talk to people is how to explain to them, how to find a way to recognize that what they believe or what I believe is actually wrong or not serving me.
Not necessarily wrong. It could be true, but it's just what you do is when you're looking at something from only one angle, you miss the other angles, don't you? And that's all it is. Comes down. It might be that belief is true, but it's not about whether it's true or not. It's about being able to look at it from a different perspective to then see which angle works for you.
Okay.
And again, like we said, it's not necessarily negativity either. I mean, because for instance, fear can be a positive thing, because if you've developed a fear-based belief, it's usually developed through something that's happened to us in the past, or all the time, most of the time. So for instance, if you're at school, you're bullied at school and everyone laughed at you, or you made a joke and everyone laughed at you. Later on in life, say for instance, you're in a work situation, someone asks you to do a presentation. And what happens is subconsciously that fear will regurgitate itself, because in the back of your mind, and again, it's not conscious, it's in the subconscious, that you will tell yourself, oh, you don't want to put yourself forward for that because everyone will laugh at you. That's where fear comes from. So it's a protective thing. It's not necessarily a negative thing. It's actually something that's there to save you from making a fool of yourself, So fear isn't necessarily always a negative, but knowing that it's from the past and that it's there to protect you, we can disarm it. We can learn how to come to acknowledge it and then change our perspective around it so that it's something more consciously serving of where we are right now. That's how we get rid of fear. So for instance, if someone's come to me with a certain belief, a limiting belief, I would simply ask them a few questions about how true is that belief really, and how is that belief serving you, and what other possibilities or perspectives could you have about that belief. And simply just by asking different questions like that, you get the person to then open up and see that situations aren't necessarily how they first saw them. And it just gives you the opportunity to see that and open up your mind to say, well, actually, you know what? It's not really, it isn't really true. What evidence have you got that that's really, really true? You might have seen it on the news. Your friend might have told you about it, but it doesn't mean it's true. So it gives you that opportunity to then expand your mind, consciously look at the belief. Not just taking it verbatim and saying, yes, that's right. And then just look at it from a different perspective.
So when you're talking to people like this, do you suggest the other perspective, or do you help them find?
Because it could be thousands of perspectives. If you look at my perspective is no different from your perspective. It could be wrong. Both of us could be wrong. But the point is that when we're looking at when we subconsciously look at whatever the situation is, we only ever choose one perspective. When the reality is there could be thousands of different perspectives. If you lined up 150 people and asked them to look at a situation, every single one of them will give you a different perspective.
Yep.
So who's the right one? Who's the wrong one?
This
so,
is what, this is what we were talking earlier a couple of days ago when I said people going to the cinema will come out of it with a different view on the same movie.
Exactly that. And it's exactly that. It's just being open to the fact that you're not necessarily correct. It doesn't mean, again, no one might be right. There's no right and wrong about any of it. You know, there's no black and white, no yes or right. You know, everybody has a different perspective or view. So it's just being open to the fact that there are different views and different ways to look at things. And whatever your perspective might be on that given situation at that time isn't necessarily one that's serving you.
Yep.
So all you do by learning how to look at it from a different perspective, you're not saying, yes, I'm right and you're wrong. You're just learning how to find a perspective that works for you. And by learning that, what it then does, it changes your whole makeup. So you're not feeling stressed. So for instance, if you're feeling, looking at something that's making you feel angry or stressed, instead of, you don't want to feel angry and stressed. No one really enjoys that. So find a perspective, think of a perspective that works for you, that makes you feel happy, joyful, you know, fulfilled. And then swap that perspective that's draining you for the one that's building you up, making you feel good. That's how we create a mindset which works for us in any given situation. So, you know, and we produce the most in life, or we're most productive when we're operating from a highly energized level. So if you want to be consistently performing at a good level, high level, then the best way to do that is to choose perspectives that work for you rather than the ones that don't.
Fear usually clouds the judgment, so decision making will be always skewed. But when you balance, or when you're in a good mood, all of a sudden, you know, you want to eat good
more productive.
food. Everything tastes different. Everything looks different. Things bother you less, and
you think differently.
Yes,
because when you're looking at any situation from a highly energized level instead of a low energized level, the low energized level, you're always going to see the problems. You're always going to see what's wrong with the situation. You're always going to develop beliefs around that situation which aren't serving of you, and it'll just keep you held down low. And then when you're in that situation, you feel crap. You don't do the things. You're not as productive as you might want to be. But the alternative is when you are, and there's two words for it: catabolic energy, which is a draining, tearing down energy. That's what happens when we're feeling low. And when and anabolic energy is the opposite. It's a building up constructive energy. So by learning how to create more anabolic energy, we can then, and we do that by our thoughts. Our thoughts lead to our emotions lead to our actions. So if you want to be productive in life, create thoughts that work for you. That then goes on to create emotions that work for you, and ultimately that will create the actions that work for you as well.
I like how you pinpoint that there is no right or wrong, black or white. I think exactly the same. There are things only that either work for you or they don't work for you.
I agree. Well, it's like we just said about the catabolic and anabolic energy. The right or wrong, black or white, good or bad mentality comes from what I call a level 2 mentality, which is more about conflict. It's about I need to do whatever I need to do to win. Exactly. You always need to be right. The other one's wrong. It's not about that. It really isn't. It's about when you're a highly energized person, there is no right or wrong. We're all in it together. You know, you might be right, I might be right. We all are. Everybody's right. So there is no right or wrong. You know, that's from a low energy. The mentality of right and wrong is a low energy perspective.
Highly energized people, first of all, they don't compete. They're more helpful. They're more gracious. They're more generous and
happy.
And by helping others win, by default, they're winning. They're not much different from me or you. They just, as you say, highly energized, and most likely they learn how to operate the system, how to turn the dial. So, I'm feeling low. I need to do something to feel better, and that will change everything. And then we'll change my attitude.
And that's what I do as a coach. I mean, exactly that. I mean, I work to a philosophy where there's 7 different levels of energy. And what it basically does, it's turning the intangible, such as thoughts and feelings, into the tangible.
Yeah.
So that you've got a structure. And then, so when you understand how to work with this structure, you can then choose literally in the moment where you want to be and what energy level you want to be at. So you can say, for instance, you're feeling angry about something and you don't want to be feeling angry. You can then say, well, actually, I don't want to be feeling this way. How can I then lift myself out of this mindset into one that's much more constructive?
Yeah.
So you can then choose which level from the upper levels you want to be at. So if, for instance, I wanted to be more caring about somebody's situation, that would be level 4. If I wanted to see opportunities more in any given situation, I feel calm about a situation, that'd be level 5. So this is exactly how I work, by educating clients around this philosophy, which gives them the ability to literally choose their moods, their thoughts and their moods in any given situation. So no matter what your circumstances are, you can create a mindset which works for you consistently all the time, so that you're always performing at your best, basically.
I love this seven different levels of energy. What's the highest level?
Without going right into detail about it, basically we're any given moment in life, we're a fluctuation of all of these levels. So it's not like you're 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. You're a mixture of them all at any given time. But by being consciously aware of your thoughts, we can literally choose which ones to tap into.
Oh, brilliant.
So you might have, say, I don't know, a certain level of catabolic energy in you, but you'll also have a certain level of anabolic energy in you. So it's always fluctuating at any given time. Level 7 is probably the highest level, but we very rarely resonate for any length of time in this level, any of us, but you can tap into it with practice. And that's essentially what it's about. So I'll give you a few things about what's in there. So basically, you've got no judgment whatsoever. You have no fear whatsoever. It's complete objectivity, total bliss. You're full of energy all of the time. There's no winning or losing. They're complete illusions. Unconditional love for everything. No, like we just said before, no right or wrong, no good or bad. You have a connection to your actual higher self. So you feel like you're in the flow all of the time. You're constantly connected to everything around you. So that's level 7.
I'm going to go back to something. No right or wrong, no good or bad. And now what you pointed out, that at any given time, we can find ourselves on any of those 7 different levels of energy.
Yes.
So it's not like if I feel bad, it doesn't mean that I'm going to feel bad for the rest of my life.
No, of course not. I mean, you've got the opportunity to change that. You've got the opportunity to change that in the moment.
And I would really like if people understand this more, because very often when we get down and blue, we think that it's going to be forever.
Level 1 is actually the lowest level of energy. That's victim level. So that's when we're at, and that's how, like we just said, I just wanted to point out there, is because when you said when we're that low, when we're blue and we feel like we're never going to get out, that's probably the hardest level to get out of, because what happens is we just literally can't see any other alternatives to the situation that we're already in. So what happens then is we get stuck in that mindset. So we continually tell ourselves there's no point, there's nothing's going to ever change, we're never going to move forward, and it takes a lot of effort and courage to literally say, you know what, I'm going to take responsibility for my life, and I'm going to start changing how I see things. And that's only then, when you do that, it's like my own situation when I was in prison. I was stuck in that mindset for about a year before I thought, you know what, I've had enough of this. I want to take responsibility. It's only then that things changed.
Yeah. If there is 7 different levels and we can move on all of them, right? So my first question to you is, do you have like exercises that you suggest to people that, look, if you're feeling low, this is what you do, and those will lift you 1 or 2 levels? Well, basically, and my second question to you would be, I totally agree with you that to move from the bottom is the hardest thing, and that's why so many people get stuck there.
Definitely agree.
What is your way to move people from the bottom at least to the 2nd level, so they can start?
You're giving away my secrets now. No, basically, the way I do that, just by asking certain questions, get a client to move from one energy level to another. And it's absolutely brilliant how it works. The client doesn't realize what I'm doing. But that's what I'm trying to do. But yeah, well, exactly. I mean, they don't realize. They think I'm just asking questions, but I'm asking specific questions to get a certain emotional reaction or response, I should say. So a mental reaction then leads to your emotions. So by getting you to think in a certain way, that then leads you to feel a certain way. So it's all in how I ask the questions and what questions I'm asking. So for instance, if I've got a client here sat in front of me who's a level 1. They're thinking one perspective only. Their life's over, everything's terrible, blah, blah, blah. So I'll ask them certain questions, which I know will then get them to pull themselves out of that mindset that they're in and think of things in a different way, which then lead to them feeling much more inspired, let's say, emotionally feeling better. So they might think, so it might be asking them to acknowledge past victories or past things that have happened to them. Just to get that emotional reaction. So as soon as that wakes up, so, you know, what worked for you in the past, for instance? So like if I was asking you a question, what worked for you in this, tell me about an experience in the past which went well. And everybody's got at least something. So you will ask them and they can tap into that particular situation. Then you ask them, well, what worked well in that situation specifically? So tell me about what strengths, what character strengths, what was it about you that made that situation work? By getting them to recognize that and think about that, it then gets them to feel good about themselves. And then they will start feeling better emotionally. And then I'll ask them the question, well, how can you use those strengths or qualities or whatever it is now in your current situation? That then gets them into the present moment. So they're then, instead of thinking about what happened in the past, they're now thinking about how relevant, how can I use those skills now? That then gets them out of that level 1 mentality and up to a much more positive, more or highly energized level, such as level 5, let's say, where they're seeing opportunities and possibilities and things like that. Once they're into that higher level of energy mentally, then you could start working with them. You can start getting them to see things in a different light. You can start getting them to make plans, create things. That's how I work. And then once you've got them out of that, they can see for themselves the difference, because what you do then is tell them. You just say, well, do you see what you did there? Because before I start with any client, I will go through the whole structure. We do an assessment, an attitudinal assessment with every client, where they get to learn about the different levels of energy and everything else. So they're aware of all of this. So I will just relate it to them to show them how their energy went from here to there, simply by thinking differently about something.
It's literally like opening the blinds to the room, where
100%,
and getting a little bit of a light. But here is the trick, and again, I'm gonna reveal you a secret, because it's not so much of a secret. It's a brilliant methodology. You're asking questions which trigger people to think, so they literally do the work themselves. Do you think that people know all the answers? They just asking themselves wrong questions?
What I'd use is called the core energy coaching process, which is trained only by taught only by IPEC, Institute of Professional Excellence of Coaching, and they do say this. You know, this is one of the. You don't answer. You don't have the answers. The client always has the answers. I always hold the client's agenda. It's not my agenda. I don't tell the client what I'm going to tell them today. Like today, I'm going to teach you this. It doesn't work like that. The work I do with them is in between the sessions, like teaching them the philosophy. But the actual issues, like whatever the client comes to in the individual coaching sessions, is the client's agenda. So they will come up and they'll say, well, this is bothering me or whatever. We will work on that. But what we often find is it's not the issue that they think it's causing them. It's actually the underlying stuff that's going on. So we therefore go on to the emotional, the thoughts behind it, the blocks, like we've discussed. You know, that's where the work is. So it's really, really generally about raising that client's energy around the situation so that they're seeing it differently. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the coach never has the answers. It's always the client who has the answers. I'm not a consultant who sits there and advises people on what to do. I'm a coach who helps you find the answers within you. who am I to tell you what your problems are
Yeah.
or how to fix your problems? That's not what I do. And a lot of coaches out there who aren't probably trained or whatever may do that. They'll say, well, this is how you want to sort this problem out, and this is doesn't work that way for in what I do. Mine is completely focused on helping the client find their own solutions. So I mean, what I will say though is there, in each of our lives, we have 6 core areas, which I call core influences. Is another part of the philosophy which I teach. They are mentally, emotional, spiritually, physically, socially, and what was the other one? Environmentally. And if in any of those areas in our lives are not fulfilling us completely, or even partially, let's say, then what happens is you find that you drain your energy right across the board, becomes drained. And you feel, and that's when you, and as we've already discussed, those 4 blocks that we've discussed come to life when we're feeling crap, when we're feeling low, when our energy is in those 2 bottom areas, 1, 2, maybe a little bit of 3. That's when all of those fears, beliefs, interpretations, assumptions, judgments, that's when they fly. That's when they flow. So by working to find out what areas are draining your energy, firstly, we can then create a strategy or a plan to increase that energy in any given area, so that you're also optimizing all of those areas. So, for instance, socially, when you're a low energy, that's when your fear will come alive. That's when you'll fear all the stuff that's going on around you. You see stuff which is all fear based on the news, and that will feed into your own beliefs and your fears about whatever's going on. And generally in society we're surrounded by it. So it's been learning how to firstly raise your energy in all of those those 6 areas like I just mentioned, and then see things from perspectives which are not blinkered by those 4 blocks that we already talked about.
So if I got the 6 core areas, you've got a very holistic view, and I like it because I look at it in a similar way. If one part of the car is not working, the car is not
drains
working.
it. The rest of it doesn't work.
Literally. But does it mean that if I'm not fulfilled emotionally, or if I'm not happy with my environment, does it mean that I'm never going to be happy?
No, of course not. You can always be happy, but you're still not performing at your very best. See, I mean, you can still be happy in life, even if you're not happy in yourself. I mean, again, it comes down to the fact when I said we're not one or the other. We're always fluctuating. So you might be pissed off about one thing, but happy about another thing. So it doesn't necessarily mean that everything's one or the other. There's no right or wrong. There's no absolutes. It's all fluctuating. But the thing is, if you really want to be consistently performing at your very best in every area of your life, that's when you're learning how to optimize these levels and energy levels so that you're performing at a highly energized level, or as much as you possibly can, consciously, and increasing the energy in all your core areas, so that you're aware of what areas are influencing you at any given time. So if you've got a bad back one morning, you wake up, it's going to drain your energy in your emotional area, because then you'll be thinking, I don't want to go to work, or so it affects everything. So but if you can work out a way to increase the energy in that one area, then what happens is all the energy, it works the other way around. So the energy increases right across the board. So you can be happy. Doesn't mean you can't be happy, but you can always be happier.
Yes. And perform better. And I'm glad you pointed it out, because what comes to mind is number of people who think, if I can't have this, I'm never going to be happy. If I can't find the partner or whatever, or if I can't find the job that ends my life, and so on. This kind of catastrophic way of thinking, which sort of closes the mind and then causes them not to see other reasons.
That's another limiting belief, you see.
Which we always have plenty. Do you believe, are we living in abundance, or are we living in the scarcity?
Well, it depends on your view. I mean, you should be abundant in any given time. I mean, like, that's the thing. That is exactly what we're learning to do, because we focus on the wrong things, because we think it's, I don't know, if you ask people what they want in life, they'll focus on materialistic things and stuff like that. When you look underneath the surface of what we really want in life, it's very basic stuff.
Yeah.
It's happiness, fulfillment, joy, laughter, those sort of things, contentment, love.
Yeah.
You know, they're not cars or nice houses or lots of money, even though those things are nice. But the thing is, when we're happy in life, we're abundant. That's the thing. Yeah. That is what abundance is, because you feel everything that it does. Everything you do is good. It's happy. It makes you feel good. So you can be fulfilled living in a shed. Yeah. It doesn't mean it's all about how you see things.
Yeah. I think when you ask people what they want, did you notice that very often people, if you ask them what they want, they focusing on what they don't have, on the lack.
Yeah, and that's another thing to do with manifestation, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't realize, people just don't get, they think, oh, if I think positively, if I think to myself, I want to be a millionaire, then by saying that every day, it's going to happen. It doesn't work like that. No. You've got to believe it. You've got to feel it. You've got to actually, live it every single day, like it's already happened. And that's again the same thing as what we've seen. If you about abundance, if you wake up every morning feeling, breathing, believing that you are living an abundant lifestyle in every area of your life, not just money. It's not just about money. Then guess what? That's what you create.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, those things just come to fruition naturally. Because if you just allow your subconscious to live your life for you, like most of us do, what you find yourself doing is slipping back into the mindset where we're focused on what we don't have.
Yeah.
And I do it all the time. If you're not earning enough money and you think, oh God, I'm never going to earn enough money or whatever it is.
And you turn yourself into victim blaming circumstances and other people for everything.
Exactly. So you need to be able to consciously bring yourself back to that moment and do what I just said there.
Yeah.
Live, breathe, feel, everything, all of that. And when you do that, learn to do that constantly, every day, persistently, consistently, then what you find is that all the things that you really want in life just suddenly start happening anyway.
Yeah.
It is an easy process to do when you really break it down to sort of manifest something. And, you just have to know how to do it really. And be consistent with it. And that's the thing. And being aware of the number one thing is to be consciously aware of your thoughts.
Yes.
And 90% of the time we're not.
Yes. And that's why a lot of people say, this is the way I am. There is nothing I can do about this.
Exactly.
How wrong is this statement?
Again, it all comes down to those 4 blocks. Everything we think that's not serving of us, if you sat there and analyzed every thought you had during a day, and then put next to it, what is that? Is it a limiting belief? Is it an assumption? Is it an interpretation? Is it a fear-based thing? I bet you'd find at least about 100 of them every single day, which are stopping you creating and feeling and believing and whatever it is you want to do in life in some way, stopping you moving forward.
But for you, transformation happened after a year from what you're saying, when you said enough is enough. I read somewhere that a lot of people, one of the reasons for change is where they get to the point, you know what, enough is enough. I had enough, and I need to do something about this.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned responsibility. Why is responsibility so hard for us to acknowledge it, to take it on, and to start making different decisions?
Well, one of the things I will say about being in that victim mindset is it's safe. We can easily say, well, it's the government's fault, or it's this fault, or it's their fault, it's whoever's fault. But that just means that you don't have to take responsibility for your own situation and your own actions and your own beliefs.
And you don't have to do anything.
Exactly. That's why it's hard for people to take responsibility, because it means taking responsibility, and it means actually taking control of their own life. And some people are scared to do that.
You actually have to get up off the sofa and do something.
Yes. Yeah. Own your own feelings and take control of what you're actually thinking every single day. And don't blame other people for your situation anymore. It's easy to say, well, I'm in this situation because of that reason or that reason.
So you're in the situation because of the COVID or because of the government.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't pay you enough.
Exactly. Rather than you're focused on problems rather than opportunities.
Yeah.
You know, the successful people in life are the ones who say, okay, COVID happened. What can I do?
Yeah.
What can I learn? What can I, how's this going to help me grow? What opportunities have I got here?
Yeah.
They're the successful people,
Yeah.
not the ones who sit there and go, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to go to the pub. I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm not going to be able to do that. Not those ones.
No.
They're the ones who are sitting there feeling sorry for themselves,
Yeah.
sucking those low level of energy, not moving forward. So that's the difference. It's about how you see a situation, and any you know, my story alone is proof, if anything, that it's not your circumstances that define you. It's how you approach your circumstances.
Yeah. I love it.
You know?
And let's finish on COVID. So what opportunity COVID brought to you? What did you spot? How did you react?
Okay. Well, put it this way, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now if COVID hadn't happened, because the reality is I qualified as a professional coach probably a year before COVID started, but I had a whole load of my own emotional and mental things that I needed to sort out before I felt I could accept myself, because I had stuff to do with my own losses and prison and stuff that I hadn't dealt with. So when COVID started, basically it removed all of the distractions that were stopping me focusing on what I needed to focus on, because I was using other things to not focus on the main things that I needed to do. Making excuses, basically.
Yeah.
And so when that started, I thought, you know, I can no longer go to the gym. I can no longer go to football or socialize with friends or do whatever it is I used to do that to distract me. So it gave me the opportunity to start my business properly. So that the technological side was always something that I avoided because I hate technological stuff. So it gave me the opportunity to start my live show. And in January, just not long after COVID all started, the first lockdown started, I thought, sod it, I'm going to go all out on this. And so it gave me that opportunity to really remove everything that was distracting me from moving forward and focus on the things that I'd been avoiding, basically. It gave me the opportunity to sort of reflect more on my own situation and come to terms with those emotional, mental blocks that were holding me back. And that's then freed me up to be who I am now, which is happy, fulfilled, you know, confident, happy, and all the time. You know, I'm building. That's what I'm doing every single day, building. Yeah. But, you know, there's days when you don't feel great. But the difference is that that doesn't define me. I'm able to pull myself out of it very quickly. If I have something that drains my energy, or a thought that drains my energy, I should say, I'm able to recognize that it's my thoughts, not something that's outside that's draining my energy. It's me who's draining my view on that. It's my perspective on that. And when I realize that, I can then switch my perspective to something that's much more serving of me. So that means that the majority of the time I'm feeling good and great and happy. So, you know, COVID itself has been in many ways a blessing for me. It's also helped me save money, because obviously if I weren't sat indoors, I would have been out doing other things, going out, spending money on things. But so there's that element of it as well. So there's so many things. It gave me an opportunity to read more. That's another thing. So I started reading books again, because I had a stack of books that I kept meaning to read but never get round to. And I got into start reading again much more. The one thing it didn't help me was my waistline.